Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be speaking about what happened when the sun explodes. Please watch till the end to find out all the details. If you're new to our channel, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for post notifications. Alright then, let's get started. It's terrifying to assume what could happen if the solar system's only star suddenly exploded, especially as life as we know it relies upon the sun's gravitational pull and radiant heat. That star is at the center of our solar system, that super hot ball of plasma that gives us heat and energy. Well, it's a ticking time bomb. The sun is nearly 10 billion years old, but it's only foreseen to last about another 5 billion years. After that, the sun will expand, growing into a red giant. Then it will contract to become a white dwarf, a dying star, moderating for several billion years. Of course, we'll all be long gone before any of that takes place, but still, can you picture what it'd be like to see the sun blow up before your very eyes? There are a few things you ought to remember about the sun. The light transmitted from our whole star takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to hit our planet. If the sun suddenly blew up, we wouldn't even know it happened for 8 minutes, 20 seconds, since even that bursting light show would only be traveling at highest the speed of light. The destruction and death would follow very shortly after that, but when the sun explodes, it's not simply going to extinguish like a small flame in a candle. It's going to shoot out some really compelling stuff. All that energy, about as much as you would assume if you blew up a few octillion nuclear warheads, will almost instantly kill all of life on Earth. Chances of survival will be near zero. The sun is a star, and when a star explodes, it's termed a supernova. These types of explosions are very powerful and very bright. They emit lots of dust into space, which is used to create more stars and planets. Our solar system was developed using stuff from these explosions. Even humans are made of star stuff. With a name like supernova, you did probably assume that a solar explosion would be the most extraordinary fireworks show the world has ever seen. But in fact, you probably wouldn't see anything. The sun is 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers away from Earth, and it takes 8 minutes for light to hit us from the sun. And while that may appear super far away, in supernova terms, well, we don't stand a possibility. If the sun suddenly exploded like this, it would destroy the whole solar system. You don't have to worry though, only stars 10 times the size of our sun or more can explode like this. Our sun will end its life in a different way. Even if the Earth was miraculously sustained and life found a way to go on without the energy from the sun, the resulting radiation would destroy the planet. A supernova 30 light years away would seemingly destroy the ozone layer and mass extinctions. A supernova 8.3 light minutes away, annihilation. Explosions would evaporate the surface of the planet which faces the sun. The other side of the Earth would hit temperatures 15 times hotter than the surface of the sun right now. The entire Earth would probably crumble in a few days. So yeah, we're not going to be able to walk it off. Now it's also crucial to remember that possibly we might actually feel the impacts of the sun's departure even during those 8 minutes of approaching doom. If the sun exploded, Earth would no longer have a celestial body to revolve around, and when the center ceased to hold, the gyre would broaden. There are more nuanced ways regarding how this would actually work from a physics and maths perspective. Still, the general notion is that Earth would go from planet to spaceship to nothingness in relatively little time. A supernova is like bursting a balloon, but when our sun dies, it will slowly occur. Like when you gradually let the air out of a balloon. For Earth to be entirely safe from a supernova, we must need to be at least 50 to 100 light years beyond. But the good news is that if the sun were to explode tomorrow, the resulting shockwave wouldn't be strong enough to destroy the whole Earth. Only the surface facing the sun would vaporize away instantly. The lucky other half would undergo a rise in temperature that would be 15 times hotter than the sun's current surface temperature and constant darkness. And without the sun's mass keeping us in orbit, Earth would possibly start drifting off into space while its remaining inhabitants desperately fight to stay alive. There's a possibility that our planet could lock into orbit around another star that might provide the same light and heat as our sun. But by the time that happened, we'd all be long gone. If we considered in advance the day that the sun would explode, then we could get ourselves as many as 1,000 years of time, given we had the resources to nurture ourselves for that long. Just a few meters below the ground you walk on, the Earth sustains a temperature of about 17 degrees Celsius or 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, if we had enough time to prepare, civilization could continue to live by running underground into a massive network of fortified shelters. Within a week after the explosion, the exterior temperature of Earth would fall to -18 degrees Celsius or 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Within a year, temperatures would drop to around -73 degrees Celsius or -100 degrees Fahrenheit. At this point, the oceans would start to freeze from the top down. In 1,000 years, Earth's atmosphere would freeze and fall, leaving anything left on the surface open to meteor impacts and cosmic radiation. But hopefully by that period, we'd have all found ourselves a new home. The great news is that if the sun were to explode, and it will ultimately happen, it wouldn't occur overnight. When the sun does die, it'll be a slow, long, complicated process taking place over billions of years. If the sun suddenly exploded, all the animals and humans would die. However, the experts don't believe that this will happen. The sun will get brighter and hotter, and it'll begin to expand. During this process, it will lose its external layers to the cosmos, leading to forming other stars and planets like the powerful explosion of the Big Bang that created Earth. Who knows, maybe it could create a new life. Can you visualize another Earth? A new humanoid species? It's hard to foretell how our galaxy might look billions of years from now, and it's hard to imagine our solar system without its grand, golden pillar that keeps it all together. But one day, the sun will expand in the very distant future, and then it will shrink, perhaps leaving room for a new star to take its place. And if, by some miracle, humankind still survives at that point, where might we be living? The destruction of the sun. The sun will begin to die when it goes out of fuel in about 5 billion years. This is 77 times higher than the Tyrannosaurus rex that has been extinct for a very long time. When the sun begins to die, it'll get brighter and slightly colder, changing into what cosmologists term a red giant. It'll get so huge that it will eat Mercury, Venus, and also Earth. And when the sun is a red giant, it will inflate and blow off its outer layers out of the solar system. It'll get smaller and smaller, ultimately becoming what we term as a white dwarf. The sun is a white dwarf. A white dwarf is the core of a fallen star. They are super heavy, scaling nearly as much as the sun while being only the size of the Earth. A teaspoon of a white dwarf would count somewhere about 6,000 kilograms, as much as an adult elephant. When the sun is a white dwarf, most of the solar system would still be around. Mercury, Venus, and Earth will be gone, but Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune will sustain and continue to revolve around the sun. So will the asteroid belt, Kuiper belt, and dwarf planets like Pluto. Because a white dwarf is tiny, it does not create as much light. A white dwarf does not have any fuel to give it energy, so it gets cooler and cooler over time. Ultimately, it will become very dim. Life after the sun. The beam from the sun is what holds our planet warm. Without it, the planets in the solar system would be extremely cold. This will make it more difficult for life to stay alive in the solar system. A white dwarf does not create much light, but in the future, humans might create spaceships that will let us leave the Earth. Humans might even make something to move the Earth. This would allow the planet to sustain being eaten by the sun as a red giant. The sun will shift into a red giant and then a white dwarf over billions of years. This is a very long time. We can't observe a star do all of this, but we can learn how stars are born and die by looking at the stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way. The Milky Way has stars of all periods, and over time astronomers have managed to determine which ones are young, old, or dead. By analyzing the old and dead stars, we can discover what happened to our sun in the far, far future. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until we see you next time, stay tuned.